Are you predestined to have a specific body type just because you have a thyroid problem? Definitely not. But is it the case that some common trends tend to occur more among thyroid patients? Absolutely. And it's this idea that has led to the theory of the thyroid body type. This theory suggests that if you have a thyroid problem, you will end up with specific characteristics that will be shared among other people who have the same condition. It even goes further to not only suggest that people who have this condition all look similar, but also have similar thoughts, have similar cravings for food, gain weight in specific locations, and much more. But how true is this theory and how does it stack up in the real world? Let's break down what exactly makes up the thyroid body type to find out. Claim number one is that people who have this thyroid body type will predominantly gain weight in their hips, in their thighs, and in their waist. And while this is certainly true for many people who have thyroid problems, it's not true for everyone. When you look at thyroid physiology, it's easy to see that people who have a sluggish thyroid will be more prone to weight gain in general. But that weight gain is usually not as pronounced as most people think, and it's not always just related to fat mass. In fact, a lot of it is actually related to water weight. As someone who has a thyroid problem, you can expect that that condition will cause an extra 10 to 15 pounds to be gained over the course of your disease. But there's nothing magical about the low thyroid state that drives that weight gain into any particular place on the body. Thyroid weight gain is usually equally distributed across the entire body, but some people will notice that they will preferentially gain weight in specific locations. The reason for this has to do with genetics as well as your hormones. If, for instance, you are somebody who predominantly gains weight in your lower body or in your hips or your waist, that weight gain is almost certainly driven by imbalances in progesterone and estrogen. In this example, it's certainly the case that your thyroid sets the stage for weight gain by impairing your metabolism, but it's your other hormones that drive that weight into specific areas on the body. Knowing where you gain weight on your body is important, because it can tell you a lot about your hormones. You should always test to confirm, but the information I'm about to tell you can be used as a helpful guide. By the way, are you somebody who happens to be a thyroid patient who also happens to gain weight in your hips, thigh, or waist area? If so, leave a comment below. And if it occurs elsewhere, leave your comment to explain where. This will give the people watching this video a better idea of just how different each person is. Claim number two is that patients with a thyroid body type should eat less protein. This claim has less to do with your physical appearance and more to do with your behavior. The reason that this recommendation is made has to do with how thyroid dysfunction impacts your metabolism. While the idea that some thyroid patients tend to gain weight in similar positions may be valid, this is one recommendation that should probably be avoided. Why? Because it's precisely the reason that thyroid patients have a slower than normal metabolism. They should eat more protein. Protein, after all, is needed to maintain your skeletal muscle mass, which accounts for roughly 20 to 25% of your basal metabolic rate. By comparison, your thyroid controls about 50 to 60% of your metabolism, but 20 to 25% is not an insignificant number, and one that you can impact. Knowing this, why would you ever reduce your protein intake, which would only serve to further reduce your metabolism if that's already your problem to begin with? This recommendation does not make any logical sense. It's been my experience that thyroid patients do better when they consume more protein, not less. And it's because of the positive impact that muscle mass has on metabolism. Claim number three is that patients with a thyroid body type should avoid cruciferous vegetables. This recommendation is grounded in some science, but fails to take into account the pros and cons of vegetables for thyroid patients. Is it true that certain vegetables, especially those in the cruciferous family, contain compounds that may block the uptake of iodine into the thyroid gland? Yes, and we call these compounds goitrogens. They carry this name because they may lead to a condition called goiter, which is simply the enlargement of the thyroid gland. The most common cause of a goiter is iodine deficiency, which may be made worse if you consume these goitrogenic compounds. But to look at vegetables through this lens misses out on some of their greatest benefits, the bioactive compounds found inside of them. And it's these compounds that support the immune system, longevity, inflammation, gut health, glutathione production, and much more. If you take a more even-handed approach when looking at the pros and the cons of vegetables, it's clear that even if some veggies do have a small potential for a negative impact, their pros far outweigh their cons. Now, if only there were a way to get all of the benefits that vegetables provide without any of the consequences. Wouldn't that be nice? Oh wait, there is. It's called steaming and boiling your vegetables before you consume them. Studies show that you can reduce the goitrogenic content of vegetables by up to 50% just by steaming them before you eat them. And if that isn't enough, you can simply outcompete the goitrogenic compounds found in veggies by just increasing your iodine intake. So no matter what, there's really no good reason to avoid veggies if you have a thyroid problem, because you can, in a real sense, have your cake and eat it too. Claim number 4 is that thyroid conditions are predominantly related to disorders in estrogen levels as well as liver problems. But this claim is clearly inaccurate. We know from massive population studies that the #1 cause of hypothyroidism in developed countries is the autoimmune disease Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And it's not even close. Current estimates are that about 90% of cases of hypothyroidism are caused by this condition. But there is some truth to the idea that other problems inside of the body can lead to thyroid dysfunction. This is especially true when you look at liver health. Right now, we are in a silent epidemic of liver dysfunction that stems from a condition known as non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And this condition stems from an increase in carbohydrate intake as well as insulin resistance. Because the liver is the major site of T4 to T3 conversion, a problem in your liver may impact thyroid function. A similar but different problem can occur if you have estrogen disorders. Estrogen is responsible for regulating the protein that carries thyroid hormone through your blood. If estrogen isn't regulated within a fairly tight range, it's possible that it may impact how much thyroid hormone can be delivered to your cells. So is estrogen and liver health important if you have a thyroid problem? Definitely. But are disorders of either the primary cause of thyroid dysfunction? Definitely not. Claim number 5 is that patients with this thyroid body type will have food cravings for things that are starchy, sweet, and foods that contain caffeine. This one is probably more true than false, but the implication of it being true is somewhat meaningless. It just reinforces what we already know about thyroid physiology, which is this: thyroid patients are more prone to developing insulin resistance. And in states of insulin resistance, the body has a hard time burning fat stores as energy. In other words, it remains locked up in your fat cells even though you'd like to burn it. As a result, people with this condition, which is a lot of thyroid patients, will end up with food cravings for things that are sweet or starchy just to get that immediate boost of energy. The reliance upon caffeine is also easily explained. It's a common habit to consume lots of caffeine if you have a thyroid problem because of the connection between your thyroid and your adrenals. One of the main symptoms of hypothyroidism is fatigue. And thyroid patients have learned that if they consume caffeine, they can increase their energy and fight this fatigue. And energy levels get even higher if you consume sugar with caffeine at the same time. But doing this is not a good idea because even though it may provide you with a short-term burst in energy, it will only cause more problems for you in the long run. The better solution is to target the root cause, which is insulin resistance. By doing so, you will allow your body to tap into your fat stores to be used as energy, which provides you with a much more stable source. You can also get energy in the meantime with things like adrenal adaptogens or adrenal glandular. Claim number 6 is that those with a thyroid body type will have a characteristic body shape and size. According to the theory, women who have this condition will have the following physical characteristics: long arms and long legs, small bones, a short waist, a shoulder width that is close to the width of their hips, a round butt, and an oval or long face. The problem with this is that there's virtually no evidence to support this idea, and it can easily be debunked by simply looking at thyroid patients. Over the years, I've seen hundreds, if not thousands, of thyroid patients, and they all differ in shape and size. If you want though, you can compare your own body shape and size to those characteristics that I just mentioned to see if this is true for you. And if you do, make sure you leave a comment below so we can all see the differences. All in all, I think we can easily say that this theory of the thyroid body type is easily disproved. It may seem attractive because of its simplicity, but the evidence just doesn't support it. The reality is that each thyroid patient is unique. And this means that cookie cutter treatment plans won't cut it for the average thyroid patient. That said, there are some general rules and principles that thyroid patients should follow if they have a thyroid problem. And if you want to learn more about those, then I'd recommend checking out this video next.